Okay, guys, we need to have a whole little discussion about the whole Mike Cernovich, James Gunn situation because that shit was fucking retarded, and I need to have a rant about jokes in public discourse and whether or not they should be taken seriously or be made the holy grail as to how to get someone fired in less than 2 seconds from a job they've been having for years. And this is also going to tie into the whole Roseanne thing, which kind of sparked that whole debacle. So, anyway, I'm just going to give you the lowdown. Alright, I'm going to try to keep it short and brief because I don't want to touch on this long. But, honestly, I need to say my thoughts about this before the whole situation gets any worse. And so, here we go. So, basically, James Gunn, alright, if you don't know, he's the guy who directed Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 and 2. Writer and director of both of those films. I like his work. I think he's a very good writer and director. And hearing that he was fired kind of got me down. Because I like Guardians of the Galaxy. And Guardians of the Galaxy 2, it's a flawed work, but it's still somewhat enjoyable from a certain perspective. Anyway, James Gunn recently made some comments about Trump, and he's a Hollywood celebrity. I don't care. A bunch of Hollywood celebrities say shit about Trump. I shouldn't give two shits. Well, apparently some people like Mike Cernovich do. And for some reason, he also tied it into the whole Roseanne situation. The whole thing where she made an ill-advised but not racially charged joke. Like, it may have seemed racially charged, but it was just an ill-advised joke comparing Valerie Jarret to a mix between the Muslim Brotherhood and Planet of the Apes, and how she lost her show, and ABC didn't bother to try to see that it was a joke. They just fired her on the spot, and a lot of people, including myself, thought she shouldn't have been fired. I don't think she should have been fired just because it was a dumb comment. She makes dumb comments all the time, and I think ABC was just looking to an excuse to fire her because ABC's very left-wingy, and Roseanne, supported Trump, but even though Roseanne was still kind of a left-wing person. But I thought the whole Roseanne situation was just bullshit. But anyway, James Gunn said on the Roseanne situation that, basically, that if you say shit like that, you should be fired from your job, blah, blah, blah. Since ABC is basically in that same blanket of networks that Disney owns, since Disney owns Marvel too, so yeah, it was just a little, it was just like, okay, and then, but Mike Cernovich got a little triggered. He got a little triggered by what James Gunn said. That, or he wanted to spite him, and so, guess what he did? He went on the man's Twitter. Went on his Twitter. And found some edgy tweets. Alright, and they were jokes. They were edgy tweets and jokes from 6 years ago when Twitter was still a relatively small platform. And found a bunch of tweets talking about pedophilic jokes. Now, apparently, this is just like what happened with the Milo situation, where Milo was making jokes about pedophilia, even though, he was molested as a kid. And, that was kind of the basis for his personality. Is one of the big things about him was that he was, molested as a kid, and he makes jokes about it all the time because it happened to him. And apparently James Gunn had this same experience where he was molested as a kid. So, honestly, from that perspective, I don't give two shits that he was making pedophilic jokes. If he wants to make a pedophilic joke, that's his right anyway. Alright, freedom of speech and whatnot. It's not like he was serious about it. Like I said, and this is the perspective of many who share my thoughts on this. Basically, Twitter was a really edgy platform at that time. People were just making stupid shit. And James Gunn also publicly apologized for that. For those tweets earlier in his career when he was getting into Marvel. He apologized for that shit. So it's just well, why the hell is Disney firing him for it? But Mike Cernovich drug these up. Disney fired him for it. But one of the bizarre things is that James Gunn actually accepted that. You know, most people who do that type of logic actually go against it and it affects them. But James Gunn's actually said that he defends his firing for some reason, even though I think his firing was beyond inane. So I was just like, huh. That was just weird. But there's also, I think, another perspective that I need to get out of the way too. Is I think James wanted to be fired. I mean, that's just a theory, but I think he just wanted to be fired, you know, just make Mike Cernovich look ridiculous. And honestly, that is working. Mike Cernovich does look ridiculous. He's a fucking moron. He's been a plague on conservative idealism for the past 2 years. And the only reason he's popular is because, oh, I like Trump. That's literally it. That's like the only reason. Same thing with him and Jack Posobiec. Those two are basically one and the same. I wouldn't be surprised if they were clones of each other. That'd be kind of funny. Like a Boba Fett, Jango Fett thing. That'd be hilarious. But yeah. So, but yeah, also, as you can see, there's been a lot of people who, you know, disown his comments, and like, I know from certain perspectives you think that pedophilic jokes shouldn't be said no matter what. I can completely understand that. But calling for the man to be prosecuted for saying jokes, it's not a good way to get people on your side, and that's exactly what Ted Cruz did. Bless his heart. Come on, Ted. Why did you do that? Why did you do that, man? Alright, now, you know I'm a guy who, you know, supported Ted Cruz. I live in Texas. One of my favorite guys in political life, but he did not say the greatest thing. He basically said that he said that James Gunn should be prosecuted for those tweets. And I'm like, oh, come on, are you kidding me? Alright, some of those tweets weren't even that bad. I mean, yeah, I can understand certain perspectives say that you shouldn't be able to say pedophilic tweets, but it's his right as a person, because, you know, First Amendment, it's his right to say it, whether or not he wants to. It's his, you know, decision. All right, and I make some pretty edgy jokes too. All right, who hasn't seen an episode of South Park? But still, from that perspective, I guess you can argue that one of the main things that South Park does is, you know, social commentary. So there's that at least. But yeah, so it's just the whole situation right here is just really, really irritating. Alright, and like I said, this ties into the whole Roseanne Barr situation, because, you know, she was fired because she made an ill-advised and retarded joke that for some people just either made no sense or was full-on racist. And I don't believe it was full-on racist. I don't even think she was intending for that to be looked at as racist. All I know is that it was a dumb tweet. She shouldn't have said it. She was fired as a consequence, which for some people is a great thing. But for me, as a person, you know, is, you know, like a free speech absolutist, that is bullshit. That's complete and utter bullshit. Unless they are actually going around saying F black people, or, you know, F the Mexicans and shit like that. That they need to go back to their country, even though they're, like, born here legally or something like that. Like, that's the type of shit that should get you fired. That's not something that's protected on. Well, no, that is actually protected under the First Amendment. But that is a comment that would actually lead to people firing you, not a fucking ill-advised and retarded joke, and definitely not a joke worthy of Twitter in its early days of being just an edgy content platform for people to fuck around on. And that's basically how people got famous on it. At least some people. So it's just like, and you know, Twitter's just a cesspool of retardation at this point. But anyway, yeah, basically my whole thoughts on this is just, James Gunn should not have been fired. There was absolutely no reason for Disney to fire him. Disney should have looked into this beforehand, and if he did apologize for these tweets beforehand when he was, you know, signed on by Marvel to to write and direct Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, then, you know, I think that could mean some that could mean some legal trouble for Disney, because even though he made this stuff, he acknowledged this stuff, he said this stuff, he apologized for this stuff, Disney still fired him 6 years later for that same shit, even though he apologized. So, from a layman's perspective, James Gunn could technically sue, but then again, there is a petition to, you know, rehire James Gunn, and I think James Gunn should be rehired. Monday Matt has a couple good videos on the whole situation. It was basically just, you know, Mike Cernovich being a fucking tool, and, you know, and he said, like, I don't agree with the content, with the context of the jokes that he was making, but, you know, that's his right to say it, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, knowing that he may or may not have been molested as a kid, then, you know, then he definitely can say it, and he shouldn't have any consequences. Because, like I said, this also ties in the whole Milo thing where Breitbart let him go because he was making pedophilic jokes in his book, even though he was molested as a kid. And so, yeah, this whole situation is just stupid, and the people who keep arguing about its merits, about whether or not he should have been fired, I don't think he should be fired. If you care at all about freedom of speech and what it means for, like, everything around you, then you know that James Gunn or Roseanne Barr or Milo shouldn't have been let go by their respective companies because of some stupid comments. Especially knowing the context of their personal lives. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little short thing about James Gunn. You know, like I said, I don't agree with James Gunn on his personal politics, but that's not the big issue here. The big issue is free speech and all that. So hopefully this gives you a different perspective. Thank you guys, and you guys have a good day, since I'm actually recording in the daytime this time.